Thank you so much to Pat Wictor for bringing us into the room in the grooviest way possible on this Saturday. It is day 1840 here in the Daily Antidote of Song, and we cannot wait to get started today. My name is Aryn, and I am coming in from Brooklyn, New York, same as our fabulous artist of the day. So we'll talk Brooklyn in just a minute, but before we do that, it's time to say hello. Everyone wave hello to everybody watching out there on the live stream. Hello, live streamers. We are so glad you're with us. And of course, we are so glad that we are joined by every single one of you today. Hey to our artist of the day, Pat Wictor. We'll hear more from you in just a moment. Hello to our fearless leader, Joe Rossi in Tacoma Park, Maryland. Hello to Ariana and Candace, both in LA, both holding fort behind the scenes. Thank you so much for all that you do. Hey to Athena in Brooklyn. Hello to Hoda in BC. Hi to Linda on Orcas Island, Delhi in Maryland, Nancy in Washington State, Jenny in Suffolk in the UK, Susan in Cincinnati. Hi to Becky in BC, Linda in San Rafael, California, Elizabeth also in California, Kathy in Colorado. Hi to Arlene in Berkeley, Emma in Norwich in the UK, Aloysius in Massachusetts, Nan in Michigan, Chris, hello. Hi to Sheila in Florida, Sue in Seattle, Marion in Brighton in the UK, Storm in Massachusetts, Fred in Silver Spring, Maryland, Kathleen in Albuquerque, New Mexico, Annette in California. Hello to Baba Jim in Maryland. Hey to Benet in Berkeley, California. Ruth and Clive in the UK. Hey. Hello to Cricket in Maryland, Caroline in DC, Dick and Kathy in Victoria, Trish also in Victoria, BC. Hello to Carolyn in Boise, Idaho, Pauline and William in the UK, Pat in Vermont, Julie in Ontario, Canada, the Curly Tops in Vermont, David and Elsie in Oakland, California. And I think that that's everyone in the room with us today. Now, it is my absolute pleasure and delight to welcome back the fabulous Pat Wictor, who is coming in from Brooklyn, New York today. You know him, you love him. He is a fabulous song leader, singer, instrumentalist, all-around wonderful community person, and of course, songwriter, including the song that he's going to share with us today. How you doing, Pat?
Hello. It's so good to see you, Aryn. So good to see everybody here. Doing great. My gosh, I'm so happy to see you all.
We're so glad that you are back with us and sharing such a wonderful and perfect song for today. Will you tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. The song is called Love is the Water, and it is made for singing together. And I wrote this in the middle of a torrential rainstorm while driving on the New Jersey Turnpike. It was raining so hard I had to pull over, and
Wow.
I had been thinking about an a cappella song on the idea of love as this thing that softens another person's heart. But I didn't have the image until there was a torrent of rain pouring onto my car, and I said, love is the water that wears down the rock. So that's where it came from.
Well, take it away. We are ready to sing with you.
All right. This is a very easy chorus to learn. There's only 2 lines to remember. The words are, love is the water that wears down the rock. You say it again, love is the water that wears down the rock. The 3rd line, love is the power that won't be stopped. And back to the beginning, love is the water that wears down the rock. Let's try it. Here's the tune. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the water that wears down the rock. 3rd line. Love is the power that won't be stopped. Love is the water that wears down the rock. You guys got the hang of it, right? Here we go. You say your heart's been turned to stone. You say you wanna be left alone. You say love only made you weep and moan. Let me tell you something that you know in your bones. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the power that won't be stopped. Love is the water that wears down the rock. You say your soul's like a dry riverbed, stopped waiting for the water long ago. You said you better pray all night for the rain instead. Love comes like a tidal wave over your head. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the power that won't be stopped. Love is the water that wears down the rock. You say waiting for love takes too long. Dulls the sharp mind, weakens the strong. Well, you may be right, but you may be wrong. 'Cause love can make a mountain come tumbling down. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the power that won't be stopped. Love is the water that wears down the rock. The river washes over every woman and man, feet in the gravel and mud in your hands. Nothing can stand against love's command. Every boulder turns into a grain of sand. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the power that won't be stopped. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Again, love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the power that won't be stopped.
What an incredible song to start off our day to. Everybody give it up for Pat Wictor. That was amazing. We love that song here. We were just saying that we've had a couple of people sing it in here. Who was it who sang it in here? Was it Melanie Demore? Is that right? No.
I think
Lea
Joe
Morris.
said it was. I
Lea
think Joe
Morris
said it was
sang it in
Lea.
here. That's right. Lea Morris sang it in here. Not super recently, but relatively recently. And it
Lea's
is
an
just a
old
perfect
friend
song.
and a treasured friend.
Absolutely. I mean, you were saying, you said, hey, I wrote a folk song.
Yeah, the song's been taken up by a number of fellow musicians, and it's actually being sung in a number of churches as well, which is pretty awesome.
That is pretty
That's
incredible.
yeah, it's a great thing. You know, the song's taken on a life of its own, and so I hope someday to sing that song someplace and tell somebody that I wrote it, and they'll say, "No, you didn't. That's an old folk song." And so,
Well, I
so
think that day might be a little sooner than you're expecting it.
yeah. I was thinking a lot today. We all of us who are gathered here today, this is the same day as the 50501 demonstrations all across the United States. And so I wanted to give a shout out in solidarity. Many of these are happening at this very moment. And so us raising our voices in witness of the power of love, I think is a really important thing right now. I think it's very easy in this moment for all of us to be caught up in the rush of daily news and
Yes.
to give into feelings of despair and bitterness. And, the thing is, like, we still have to make sure that whatever we do to challenge what's going on, I hope everybody does it in the spirit of love, because I'm thinking of what Martin Luther King said in one of his sermons. He said, "Returning hate for hate multiplies hate, adding deeper darkness to a night already devoid of stars. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." And he said in another place, he said, "I have decided to stick with love. Hate is too great a burden to bear. And so I try to keep all of this in mind. We struggle with it, we all do. But
Of course.
um,
We all
I
get
would.
swept away in it sometimes, but
I was really lucky. In 2015, I was part of a conference in Montgomery. I'm sorry, in Birmingham, Alabama, in recognition of the civil rights actions and the march from Selma to Montgomery. And it was the 50th anniversary of that march. And so it was a conference that brought together many of the civil rights leaders who were still surviving from that time. And one of the people who spoke was the Reverend C.T. Vivian. And what he said was, we had great leadership, we knew, we believed in the justice of our cause, and we did everything we did out of love. And, that was really powerful coming from a guy who was almost 90 years old and who had
yes.
been beaten and, jailed unjustly and, just had fire hoses turned on him and attack dogs and all of that. And he had nothing but sweetness and light and smiles and generosity in his heart. And that's a really powerful example that I'm hoping all of us can find the wherewithal to be inspired by. So
Absolutely. And it really is the perfect metaphor for it. I mean, it sounds so cheesy, but I think that in the face of such hardness, the hate is so hardened and it's so painful to brush up against, much in the way that, if you can scrape your leg on a rock and have a gash in your skin, and the thought of something as soft and as gentle as water being able to do anything to that rock is, especially when you're just starting out and are very young and don't know very much about the world, it's unfathomable to think that something like rain, something like water, could change something like a rock. But the
yeah,
key is that it doesn't do it through brute force, it does it through consistency and
no,
persistence.
and and it requires patience.
So much patience.
So um, it's an honor to sing this for everybody, and I hope, I hope we all keep singing. We've got to keep singing over these next 4 years and beyond. That's what's part
Absolutely.
of what will keep us all, going forward and moving and um, bringing out the best, offering the best that we have to offer. So,
Absolutely. Well, one of the things that you've been doing, speaking of singing and bringing more singing into the world, is you've relatively recently founded a new singing group. Is that right?
that's right. It's called Kaleidoscope, and it's a quartet with three other musician friends in Brooklyn, New York. We all met from doing workshops with Bobby McFerrin, who is kind of really the epicenter of a
Mhm.
cappella vocal improvisation, and there's an international community that really Bobby and his associates have kind of helped to create. And so I met these folks at one of Bobby's workshops over 10 years ago, and we all just kind of kept singing together recreationally. And then at some point we said, I think I'd pay money to see this. And so we started organizing some gigs, and just in the last year, really. And what we found is that improvisation, a cappella, vocal improv, it's fun, it's loose, it's creative, it gives people a sense of possibility that I think we really need not right now. And we always find ways to involve the audience and invite people to sing. And as it turns out, we can, make this kind of radical statement in favor of human creativity without ever saying a word about it. We
That's
just
so
show. It's
wonderful.
showing rather than telling,
It
and that's
is.
I think that's kind of a powerful thing to be doing right now. So we
It
have a
really
couple of
is.
shows coming up.
Well, tell us when
We
those couple of shows are, because we do have some folks in the New York area right here in the Daily Antidote, and so maybe we'll be able to come and check it out.
Kaleidoscope will be doing a concert on Saturday, May 3rd at Christ Church in Cobble Hill, Brooklyn. I believe showtime is 7:30. And we also have another show the following Saturday on May 10th, and a workshop, actually, a vocal improv workshop in Rochester, New York with the Golden Link Folk Singing Society. The workshop's, I believe, at 4:30, and the concert, I believe, is at 7.
That's incredible. Well, you heard him, folks. Anybody who is in the New York area or can make it to the New York area, that is a really special thing that you might be able to check out. It's really incredible. I am definitely going to be making sure to keep my eye on those calendars because I feel at this moment very lucky to be local to you and to maybe get to check out Kaleidoscope. And hey, maybe we'll get to see Kaleidoscope on the Daily Antidote of Song one day.
Oh, that would be fun.
Maybe you'll
That
have
would
to
be
bring them
really
around
fun.
to our neck of the woods because I think that would
Yeah,
be really spectacular.
great, great. Let's try to make it happen.
Let's make it happen. Well, before we sing again, I would just love to tell you about the folks that we have had in our room this past week, and we still have one more fabulous day of this fabulous week. So far this week, we have had some absolutely wonderful artists, as you saw with our flyer at the very beginning. And coming up tomorrow, we will have Bindu coming in from India, who has sung with us before. So come and sing with Bindu again tomorrow on April 20th to finish out our week. But we've had an incredible week so far. We started out with Liz Akamba and Melissa James both coming in from the UK. We had Bernice Martin, who was new to us, coming in from Maine. Valia Levchenko coming in from Ukraine. Sean Healy celebrated National Tartan Day with us. And then, oh, who is this guy on April 19th? He seems so cool. Pat Wictor singing with us today on Saturday. So we've had an incredible week, and we would love it if you would join us tomorrow. Now, one thing that I have to say before we go back to singing is we do have a birthday in the house. It is Baba Jim Harkless's birthday in Maryland, and he is one of our fabulous song leaders and leaders in general, spiritual leaders, leaders of the heart and the soul and the mind and everything, and talk about incredible people that we can look to for lessons on how to love and be loved. And Jim is really one of those. So happy birthday, Jim. We'll have to take some birthday pictures right after this. But before we do that, let's sing again. What do you say, Pat?
Y'all ready?
We are ready.
You say your heart's been turned to stone. You say you wanna be left alone. You say love only made you weep and moan. Let me tell you something that you know in your bones. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the power that won't be stopped. Love is the water that wears down the rock. You say your soul's like a dry riverbed, stopped waiting for the water long ago. You said you better pray all night for the rain instead. Love comes like a tidal wave over your head. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the power that won't be stopped. Love is the water that wears down the rock. You say waiting for love takes too long. Dulls the sharp mind, weakens the strong. Well, you may be right, but you may be wrong. 'Cause love can make a mountain come tumbling down. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the power that won't be stopped. Love is the water that wears down the rock. The river washes over every woman and man, feeding the gravel and mud in your hands. Nothing can stand against love's command. Every boulder turns into a grain of sand. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the power that won't be stopped. Love is the water that wears down the rock. The river, let's do it again. We did it. The red love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the power that won't be stopped. Love is the water that wears down the rock. I said love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the power that won't be stopped.
Everybody
All
give
right.
a big round of applause for Pat Wictor. Thank you so much, Pat. That was absolutely fabulous, and that was exactly the energy that we need to go into the rest of our day, and honestly, the rest of our year, and the rest of all time and eternity. That's something to keep in the back of your head every single day. I think that
Thank
we
you.
should all use it there.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Aryn. Thank you, Joe. Thank you for holding this space and making this happen day after day. So
Thank
appreciate it.
you and everybody like you for coming every single day to make this space what it is. Thank you, all of our artists, and thank you, all of our wonderful, enormous chorus of lovers and fighters and singers and noisemakers and beautiful people. We would be truly, truly nothing without you. Now, I think that it is time to say goodbye to every single person so that we can send you out into this, at least what is for me, beautiful sunny spring day. I hope that it's beautiful wherever you are. But have the most wonderful rest of your day. Go and be the water. Wear down those rocks just a little bit today. Goodbye and thank you to Pat Wictor in Brooklyn, New York. Everybody, please check out everything that Pat has coming up, and Kaleidoscope, which is really exciting. We're going to have to get them on Daily Antidote. We just have to now that I know they exist. I won't rest till it happens. That's a lie. I will rest before it happens, but then I'll make it happen. Goodbye and thank you to Ariana and Candace in LA running tech for us. Thank you so much for all that you do. Bye and thank you to Athena in Brooklyn, Hoda in BC, Linda rockin' on Orcas Island, Deli in Maryland, Susan in Cincinnati, Linda in San Rafael, California, Kathy in Colorado, Arlene in Berkeley, California. Goodbye to Emma in Norwich in the UK, Miles and other people who aren't Miles, and Amanda and everybody there. Yesterday birthday. Oh my goodness, a yesterday birthday for Miles. Happy yesterday birthday to Miles. Goodbye to Sydney. Goodbye to Aloysius in Massachusetts, Nan in Michigan, Chris. Goodbye to Mabel and the Cinnamon Bears in Massachusetts. Goodbye to Sheila in Florida, Sue in Seattle, David and Elsie in Oakland, California. Goodbye to Marion and Brighton in the UK, Storm in Massachusetts, Susan in Tacoma Park, Maryland, Kathleen in Albuquerque, New Mexico, Annette in California, Julie in Ontario, Canada, the birthday boy, Mr. Jim in Maryland. Happy birthday to you. Bob in Albany, New York. Goodbye to Vinay in Berkeley, California, Ruth and Clive in the UK, Cricket in Maryland, Caroline in DC, Dick and Kathy in Victoria, Trish in Victoria as well, our fearless leader Jojo Rossi in Tacoma Park, Maryland, Carolyn in Boise, Idaho, Pauline and William in the UK, Kat in Vermont, the Curly Tops in Vermont, Nancy in Washington State, Bob in Massachusetts, Kay in Texas, Harriet in Chicago, Louise in Devon, UK, Elizabeth in California, Fred in Silver Spring, Maryland. Let's see who we've got on page 2. Linda in Massachusetts, Jamie in Victoria, bye to Diane in Puerto Rico, Don and Liana in Vermont, goodbye to Gary in Massachusetts. And that is everybody. Thank you so much for joining us and singing with us. A big round of applause for everyone over there at Carpe Diem Arts for keeping us going day in and day out. This has been the Daily Antidote of Song, day 1840, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.